We're getting into the weeds, fellas. Welcome. Practical Female Psychology, Chapter 8, Episode 9. Screening for the archetypes. If we have any mantra, it's this. Love for the woman, for who and what she really is, not for who you wish her to be, or for who society says she should be. This is the single piece of advice, coupled with skills for recognizing types of women, will revolutionize your skill in the relationships with women. Sounds poetic. Look, you've already talked about the different archetypes. You got the adventurous, you got the materialista, you got the good girl. They also have the extra one they throw on there about the situational tens. You understand the ideas of high self-esteem and low self-esteem, or a high level of interest, which they describe as high sex drive, and low sex drive. And this is where we kind of put them together, create a couple scenarios, and then show you from a practical perspective how you would approach these situations. This first one, it's the good girl with high self-esteem. So we'll start off with the quote. The good girl with healthy self-esteem makes appropriate long-term relationship material for most men, especially when sex drives are well matched. The latter point is crucial. A high, desirable woman paired with a low or much lower drive in a man is liable to get very cranky and restless. A woman with a low or much lower sex drive may very well use sex to manipulate the man in the relationship. A good girl who is not satisfied sexually, or conversely, one who feels sexually pressured, is likely to get feelings of depression and anxiety due to the mismatch in sexual drives. Now, part of it is you can have all kinds of attributions to this. It could be the girl went and wasted her entire 20s, had more experience than you're ever going to have in your lifetime, and most women probably will. Those ones will never be happy. Not with just you with your 20 notch count or your 10 notch count, and they're always going to be somewhat dissatisfied, and then their desire drops and they end up with low sexual desire. Maybe they have high self-esteem, even though she's a good girl because it said so in the manual, but that's the point. You want to narrow these things down early on and right away. So that way you don't end up in this situation where you're in a dead bedroom, 2 kids, 3 years, and you haven't even seen what your dick looks like anymore. You come online and ask guys, hey, how do I fix this? The answer was, the way you fix it is by dealing with it before it even started. Now, in the low self-esteem case, the good girl with low self-esteem may be just as ruthless as any other kind of woman, and even more so with a dangerousness, as she cloaks her ambition under what is otherwise socially acceptable behavior. With a woman having a high libido, there'll be lots of drama. Low libido women will often use sex within a relationship to manipulate her man, and often do this to his material disadvantage. Great example, chore play. She doesn't want to have sex with you, she has no desire to have sex with you, but at least she can get the dishes done. Hey, if you did more dishes, maybe I'd be more comfortable and I'd want to have sex more often. Or put that thing away, the kids are in the other room. Or my goal is to be a mother right now, and they literally bring the kids and have them sleep in the master bedroom, or whatever they're calling it now because of slavery or something. And they put them in there as sort of a cock block. Oh, we can't do that. The kids have to sleep in there because they have anxiety issues. It's always about societal expectations and making the rules work to her benefit and against yours. Still sound like a good girl? Keep that in mind. So there's a couple lists of things in here that'll help you identify these type of women. She tends to place value on all her relationships, whether it's with family, friends, or mates. She is in touch with her feminine sexuality and her sexual desire. She may love sex as much as any other woman, but she prefers it with a man whom she's in a committed relationship with. She's able to accept you as a man who is also a sexual human being. She respects the masculine world without trying to be a man herself or act like a man. She is comfortable in a wide range of social situations, and she will not tolerate much abuse of any kind from anybody, whether friends, family, or mates. Again, there's a whole bunch of things here, some good, some bad. The abuse one, great. Obviously, if you're in a relationship, she doesn't put up with any BS, so you don't provide any BS, so who cares? But keep in mind, a lot of times, and we talked about this last chapter, where girls will have increasing expectations as their experience increases, the definition of abuse can change drastically, to the point that an errant word or standing up for yourself can be considered abuse. So in this case, a good girl, because you're not willing to be the completely supplemental plow horse in her life, she can consider that abuse and move on. At the same time, it could just be a girl with a strong sense of self and loves to be treated well and treats you well in return. Or, in the other example, treat you as a man, don't try and invade your spaces. He's going to go do his thing with his friends. They never ask to come along on the fishing trips. They never demand that you stop hanging out with your friends. Generally good things, but again, it can go bad as well. Some girls do that because they're afraid of losing you and they want to be by themselves, just with you, and so maybe they'll feign sick when you go out. With all these things, these lists will give you a good indication of what kind of archetype you're dealing with, the general libido you're dealing with, but it's really up to you to put this laundry list into context and understand, is it working for you or against you? Is this person on your team or are they against this team? Are they considering themselves higher status and likely to be dissatisfied, or lower status and considering themselves to be, blessed with a great man by her side? So take this stuff, use your brain noggin, and apply it as you can. As for the adventuress, they quote here, if you are ready for a casual, no strings attached relationship, these are great. However, these women can often be ideal. The proper way to interact with this woman is always in a non-judgmental, non-jealous fashion. In the high self-esteem case, a woman who's an HSE adventuress is a woman who loves pleasure for its own sake. She's not bound by typical social conventions when it comes to her sexuality. Therefore, an adventuress is a woman who thrives on male attention or sexual variety, but is not doing so in a self-destructive way. Now, everybody thinks of this as a bad thing, but consider this. Maybe you're not one of those guys that wants to have the white picket fence, 2 kids, 2.2 kids and a dog, with a girl who wears dresses and cooks food all day. Maybe you like the idea of a working couple, a power couple, somebody you can take to business functions. Maybe you want to travel the world and you want somebody that would be willing to settle with you and consider it a blessing, and then you go travel the world together. Adventurous all of a sudden doesn't sound so bad. She's not worried about getting embarrassed in public. She's not trying to dictate how you control because you might embarrass her. There's all kinds of goodness to this. But again, you got to use your noggin. What is it you're looking for? What do these people have to offer? And how well does it fit in with your goals and your values? To carry on with the low self-esteem case, the adventuress is often typified by self-destructive behavior. Therefore, many adventurous you meet will be of the LSE variety. They will very well sabotage a perfectly good relationship with you by cheating, for example, because low self-esteem women simply cannot accept that they deserve a stable, monogamous relationship with a good man. If you attempt to impose one on her, she's likely to rebel. As already mentioned, an adventuress also craves sexual variety, and low self-esteem women will jeopardize her health, her other relationships, and sometimes her physical and mental safety in order to satisfy her emotional or physical cravings. Couple things here that are very common. A lot of guys, when they find out their wife has cheated on them, they expect it's a guy who's better at his job, who's got higher status. But then they find it's just some homeless dude by a dumpster kind of thing. And they always wonder, I get she cheated on me, but why with that? He's arguably worse off than me. And part of it is psychological. I remember, and I have source amnesia for this, so if anybody in the chat remembers the studies that I'm referring to, there's a few of them anyway. Please put a link down there, I'll pin your comment. But it was about abuse and how people deal with it. And one of the findings they had is that girls that tended to be abused as children, taking a step back, I should actually quantify this too. You guys remember tiger moms? Tiger moms, tiger dads, very hard, strict parents. If you didn't perform your best, sometimes you get a spanking if you didn't get an A in class. Like, you guys know the type. It turns out those aren't abusive because the kids have a framework and it's consistent and it's predictable. So they knew if they were late for something, or if they showed disrespect to the parents, or if they didn't get good grades in school, that was where the things happened. What constituted abuse was the mix of violent reprimand and the lack of consistency. So in this case, let's say mom came home from work, single mom, and if she had a good day at work, she was fine. If she had a bad day at work, she'd start, abusing the kids. But the kids don't know that, and there's nothing they can do. So there's a constant air of uncertainty. What ended up happening, what they found for a lot of people that were in these kind of situations, and again, it's the low self-esteem adventurous type, is, and this is the one quote that stuck with me throughout the whole thing, at least when he abuses me, I know he cares. And you end up with this weird parasocial relationship where the girl actually treats that bad behavior as a good thing. And then when a man comes by thinking he's Captain Save-A-Ho, Mr. White Knight, I'm going to make sure that you never get treated like that again. Well, the girl, through kind of a messed up childhood or a messed up adult life or a horrible ex-husband, doesn't think in her heart of hearts that she deserves that kind of behavior and that the other guy must be manipulating her or lying to her, because if he liked her, he would act the same way that that deadbeat ex-husband or that crappy father or that really annoying mother acted. And so they will sabotage these kind of relationships. And again, the takeaway from this, don't try to save people. They do not want to be saved. Their entire mental models, all of them they have built up, are built on reinforcing this consistent, negative, horrible story in their life, because a crappy story that you know how it goes is far preferable to people than a story you're writing it as you go with a much better ending, but you just don't know what it is. For the Materialista, quoting here, it's important to bear in mind that women with traits of a Materialista are first and foremost human animals in much as need of love and affection as any good girl who's determined to preserve her chastity. But loving a Materialista as if she were a good girl is a recipe for disaster. If she's a Materialista and you love her on terms as a Materialista, not on your terms as if she was a good girl. If you must have a good girl, go find one. And we are confident in saying that virtually all women have a bit of Materialista in them. Throughout the ages, female survival depended on the skills of getting men into a position where they would provide material in a sense for a woman and do so willingly. There is therefore no point in expressing anger or frustration when a woman demands that you pay for her drinks or food. Just realize that some women are more bent on extracting wealth from men than others, and it is up to you as a modern man to determine what your standards are and which women will enjoy a place in your life and on what terms. Again, all girls like stuff. It's not a bug, it's a feature. Big thing on this one is Materialistas and good girls will share some traits, but for completely different reasons. For example, the I don't sleep with a guy until we're married. You could think a good girl does that because, we're in a nice Christian household and that's what you do. Materialistas do that too, but that's because they demand the marriage first and they want the financial security that comes with it. So in this case, if you start treating the Materialista as the good girl, you're going to end up very disappointed because she eventually does not care about those same societal expectations, and in certain key areas you're going to find the behaviors diverge. So again, Materialistas just like things. They like nesting. Materialistas are the ones you take to Winners to go buy some knickknacks for the bathroom. Materialistas are the ones that are going to make your bathroom pink or leave razors and tampons and other random shit around your house for you to pack up for her so she can almost like move in slightly subtly without other people knowing and other girls knowing that their territory's off limits. Yeah, Materialistas are like bears. They take a pee on a tree and they tell other bears, stay away from my tree. You just happen to be the tree and the pee happens to be knickknacks. But the key to it is to pimp her. That is, you must make your woman work for you by having her do little things for you at your benefit, at your convenience, and at her expense. Again, Materialistas will take exactly what you give them. But start asking for things in return. And this, I cannot believe we actually have to do a series on this and that, but think about what value is in the arrangement for you. The girl wants purses, the girl wants lavish dinners, the girl wants to move in, the girl wants this, the girl wants that. Well, why don't you want some things? Remember, Materialistas are still women, and women are still solipsistic. And so if in their mind, if you really loved her, you would buy her that purse. She also thinks, well, I really love him, so I'm going to buy him stuff. And I'm sure a lot of guys here have seen it. Play a little wounded, act a little bit too casual, a girl will love to buy a bunch of stuff to decorate your place because she hates your lonely MGTOW apartment. Or she'll take you out to dinner once in a while. And it's a good way to judge desire. The good thing about Materialistas is when they're into you, it's very easy to tell because they do exactly what a beta male would do to his girl. Now, in the high self-esteem case, if you have any tendency to buy a woman's favor through gifts, Materialista is not for you. However, if you're steadfast in your principles and refuse to pay for the affections of women, and if you're completely non-jealous and happy for her to get her material needs elsewhere, a woman can learn to appreciate a modern man very much. And it needs to be mentioned that low sex drive Materialistas can be particularly dangerous. These women understand the male sex drive, yet they do not share the same passion for it. And since they're very calculating and always angling for money, they're always able to fake arousal fairly adeptly. They can also withdraw it quite easily, and they do. It's a trap designed to make men spend more money in order to revive what could be mistakenly experienced as passion coming from a woman. Any guy who's ever noticed that a girl's gone down at him and then asked him for something, a favor right after that, or get something done, knows exactly what we're talking about here. Just beware, fellas. Remember this. Keep your own self-interest in mind at all times. She wants these things from me. She wants to manipulate me into doing this, that, and the other thing. That's fine. What's in it for you? And as soon as your best interest and their best interest align, well then you don't need me to tell you if this one's a keeper or not, because you've already made the decision for yourself. Now, in the low self-esteem case, even though materialistas are primarily motivated by money, a woman who has low self-esteem will also be ineffective. An LSC woman has trouble accepting anything of true value from anyone. An LSC materialista will be virtually impossible to satisfy because not only does she require more and more, as all materialistas do, but she will also get less and less satisfaction from such treatment because of her self-esteem. In addition, she will price herself very low. Streetwalkers are very much in this category, having nothing other than sex to offer any man besides her pimp, to whom she offers money in exchange for emotional support. Again, this is some pretty dangerous stuff, and we can get into a lot of psychological issues if you really want to expand on this, but girls will often be greedy, love to get free stuff from you, but have low expectations from it. At the same time, they kind of put out in more of like a matter-of-fact way, which for a lot of guys isn't very fun. Personally, I don't enjoy it. I like the chase more than the catch anyway, but the idea, and this is going to sound horrible, but the idea that we've said before that if you're the drug dealer, you end up having a lot of girls having fun with you, it's basically low self-esteem materialistas. If you're the guy that brings coke to the party or weed to the party, and I'm telling you right now, those are illegal in your state and jurisdiction, do not do this. This is strictly for educational purposes. But the guy who brings coke often gets girls even when he has no charm, no game, no physique, no long-term prospects, just because low self-esteem materialistas are perfectly happy to to go down for a little bit of nose candy. Charles Bukowski, Jordan Peterson, Neil Strauss. I like these guys. Add some salt to cover up the bitterness of middle-aged soccer moms and put in the oven for 45 minutes. Optionally, you can take from all this stuff what you want and leave the rest. And then they end the chapter on some practical advice. Do not impose moral judgments upon women or get upset that they behave the way they do. This is merely nature at work and also parts the effect of our modern Western culture. If you find you're having difficulty accepting women as they fall under the various categories, please review the chapter on the Madonna horror complex very carefully. Now, we get to that one in a different one. Once the whole series is done, you'll be able to see it on the list that we have there. There's going to be 18, 19 episodes altogether. I don't know where it is right now, so once you're watching this in the future, you'll find out. But just keep this in mind. None of these things are moral failings. None of these things are bugs. These are all features. When we were Cave Stacy and Cave Chad, don't mind the stuttering. Cave Stacy and Cave Chad, these were survival instincts. A girl who could get cavemen to bring them more food and prettier rocks tended to survive. Girls who had a man who was full of adventure and willing to do crazy risky things in order to thrive from a family standpoint tended to survive. Girls who were very conscious of the societal expectations and acting according to them stayed in the tribe, tended to survive. And the only difference between then and now is that we live in a land of such abundance, these forms of sexual diabetes have kind of presented themselves to a pathological level sometimes, but healthier levels other time. Just keep in mind, in the same way that a lot of our sexual drives are kind of not as useful now as they used to be, so are the same ones from the female standpoint. And what you need to do is maintain steadfast and focus on what's in it for you. And if you can do that, you can help guide her behavior and guide your response to her behavior to more positive realms, and that you have, and this is always the big joke, guys are asking, well, why should I do all of this just for a woman? Well, you're doing all this for yourself. And by doing it for yourself, you encourage people around you to be the best they can be, at which point you can choose among the best of people being the best they can be to see who belongs in your life and who doesn't. And I don't know about you, but I got nothing else to do for the next 80 years, so get on it. But on that note, have fun, and I'll catch you guys in the next episode. Cheers.